He's the man with the ice-cold stare and the explosive presence. Jean Reno has been the villain audiences loved to hate, the professional assassin we rooted for despite his sins, and the action star who proved that intense, compelling performances could transcend language and culture. For decades, he's been an icon of European cinema and a fixture in international blockbusters. A man who seemed to have conquered every challenge the entertainment industry could throw at him. But at 77 years old, Jean Reno faces a reality that no amount of talent or success can overcome. Behind the intimidating presence and commanding performances lies a story of profound personal loss, health battles that have reshaped his life, and the heartbreaking reality of aging in an industry obsessed with youth. He's dealt with family tragedies that would break most people, witnessed the decline of his body while his mind remains sharp, and confronted the terrifying question that haunts every artist. What happens when your body can no longer do what your spirit demands? Today, we're examining the complete, unfiltered story of Jean Reno, one of cinema's most fascinating and least understood figures. This is the tale of a man who built a legendary career on intensity and physical prowess, only to face challenges that no script could prepare him for. This is the tragedy of Jean Reno, and it's far more devastating than any character he's ever portrayed. Juan Moreno Jimenez was born on July 30th in Madrid, Spain, but his family's circumstances would force him into an entirely different life. His father, a Spanish politician involved in activities the Franco regime opposed, lived under constant threat. The political danger forced the family to make a desperate choice: leave Spain or face persecution. When Jean was just 4 years old, his family fled Spain for France, seeking asylum from political persecution. The young boy didn't understand why his life was being uprooted, why his father spoke in hushed, urgent tones, or why everything familiar was being left behind. The immigration was traumatic for a child who couldn't comprehend the reasons driving such dramatic change. Paris became his new home, but integration wasn't automatic. The Reno family struggled economically. His father worked various jobs, never quite achieving the stability or success he'd once had in Spain. Young Jean watched his father, a man of substance and political importance, reduced to survival-level work in a foreign country. The humiliation affected his father deeply, creating tension and sadness throughout the household. Jean became the bridge between worlds, learning French quickly while maintaining his Spanish heritage and accent, but this positioning came with psychological costs. He felt pulled between cultures, never quite fitting fully into either one. The experience created a sense of outsiderness that would define his approach to acting later, allowing him to inhabit characters that didn't quite belong. School was challenging. The accent and the immigrant status made him a target. Other children recognized his foreignness and exploited it. Jean learned early to be tough, to stand his ground, to present an intimidating exterior that masked the vulnerability beneath. These early survival tactics would become defining characteristics of his adult persona. His childhood was marked by financial instability and emotional turbulence. His parents' marriage, strained by the displacement and economic pressures, deteriorated slowly. Jean watched his mother struggle to manage the household, his father disappear into work and disappointment, and his own childhood evaporate into survival mode. As a teenager, Jean discovered theater, a space where his accent became an asset rather than a liability, where his outsider status could be channeled into compelling performances. Theater gave him a language beyond words, a way to express the complexity of his identity and his pain. Without having to articulate it verbally, he pursued acting seriously, studying at prestigious institutions and working in small productions throughout France. During the 1970s and 1980s, the work was inconsistent, the pay was minimal, and the future was far from certain. But for Jean, performance was necessity as much as passion, a way to make sense of his fractured identity and to create meaning from displacement. His early career was marked by struggle. He took any role available, worked in theater, television, and small films, grinding away with the determination of someone who'd learned early that nothing was guaranteed. There were periods of unemployment, times when he questioned whether he'd made the right choice, moments when financial desperation loomed. During these years, Jean's personal life began forming. He married young, seeking stability and connection. But the demands of pursuing an acting career in an uncertain industry created strain. His wife wanted security. He wanted art. The tension between these desires would create challenges throughout his personal relationships. He was a man building a career while trying to heal from childhood wounds. Attempting to create stability for his family while chasing an uncertain dream, the pressure was immense, and it took a psychological toll. Jean developed health issues and struggled with anxiety about whether he'd ever achieve the success he craved. The turning point came in the late 1980s. When Jean began landing more substantial roles, his distinctive look, his intensity, and his ability to convey menace while remaining sympathetic made him perfect for certain character types. Slowly, he began to emerge from obscurity into recognition within French cinema. International breakthrough came in the early 1990s when he was cast in a major film alongside a legendary American action star. The role of the professional assassin showcased Jean's unique qualities perfectly: his French accent, his cold intensity, and his ability to make a morally compromised character sympathetic created something cinema had never quite seen before. The film became a phenomenon, launching Jean into international stardom at an age when many actors are approaching decline. At 45, he was suddenly a global icon in demand for major productions, respected by audiences worldwide. The struggle of decades suddenly paid off, and for the first time, Jean experienced genuine financial security and professional recognition. But success brought its own complications. The roles that made him famous also typecast him. Filmmakers wanted him to play variations of the same character repeatedly. While this provided steady work and substantial income, it also frustrated an artist who wanted to explore different types of roles and express different facets of his talent. The pressure of maintaining his position at the top was intense. Jean felt he had to prove he deserved his success, that he wasn't just a lucky accent and a look. He took on challenging roles, worked with prestigious directors, and tried to expand his range. But audiences and critics often resisted his attempts to move beyond what they'd come to expect from him. His personal life, during this period of success, was complicated. His first marriage ended in divorce, a failure that Jean blamed partially on the stress of his career ambitions. He struggled with the balance between professional demands and personal relationships, never quite finding equilibrium. The guilt of not being present for his family haunted him. The action roles that made Jean famous came with a significant physical cost. Stunt work, fight choreography, and the general demands of action filmmaking pushed his body to extremes. While younger actors bounced back from these physical ordeals, Jean's age began to catch up with him by his 50s. He began experiencing chronic pain that training and rest couldn't resolve. His knees deteriorated from years of landing awkwardly during action sequences. His back was damaged from repeated impacts. His shoulders suffered rotator cuff injuries that required surgery and years of rehabilitation. The cumulative damage was substantial and permanent. Doctors warned him that continuing action work at his age would likely accelerate his decline and could cause serious, lasting injury. Jean faced a choice: hold on to the roles and physical identity that had defined his career, or accept the limitations of aging and transition to different types of work. The choice felt like losing his identity. As he entered his 60s, health challenges multiplied. Beyond the action-related injuries, Jean began dealing with typical age-related conditions. His vision wasn't what it once was. His hearing deteriorated. His metabolism slowed dramatically. The body that had been a tool for his performances became an obstacle to them. More serious health concerns emerged as well. Jean dealt with cardiovascular issues that required medication and lifestyle modifications. A cancer scare in his 60s terrified him and his family, though fortunately it was caught early. Even health issues that resolved left psychological scars, reminders of his mortality and fragility. The medication regimen for managing various health conditions had side effects that affected his energy and mood. What should have been the twilight years of a successful career felt instead like a slow decline. Watching his body betray the demands of his profession, for someone who'd built his identity on physical presence and intensity, this deterioration was devastating. He had to confront the reality that certain types of roles were no longer possible. The action hero status that had defined him for 2 decades was becoming inaccessible. This realization triggered what he's described as a minor depressive episode, a period where he questioned the meaning of his career if he couldn't do the work that made him famous. Beyond the physical challenges of aging, Jean Reno faced profound personal tragedies that tested him in ways acting never could. The death of people he loved deeply created wounds that couldn't be healed through performance or achievement. He's been remarkably private about family matters, but those close to him have described periods of deep grief and sadness. The loss of loved one's parents, family members, reminded him of his own mortality and the ticking clock of aging. Each death created an existential reckoning about what really matters in life. Beyond career success, the complexity of his family relationships added emotional weight to these losses. Given his commitment to his career during critical years, there were regrets about time not spent with family, conversations not had, presence not provided. These regrets intensified after losses occurred and couldn't be remedied. John has also dealt with the challenges of relationships in his personal life that didn't work out as he'd hoped. Marriages and long-term partnerships that seemed promising ended painfully. The emotional toll of these separations, combined with the aging process and career frustrations, created periods of genuine existential crisis. Being a father while managing a demanding career created its own complications. His children had to deal with having a famous parent, with the complications of his career demanding so much time and attention, with the pressure of living up to expectations. Jean has expressed regret about not always being the father he wanted to be, about missing moments he can't recover. The isolation that can accompany fame, combined with the private nature of his personality, meant that many of these struggles were borne alone. While Jean has friends and colleagues, there's a part of him that remains fundamentally alone, processing personal pain without fully sharing it with others. Now in his late 70s, Jean Reno confronts a harsh reality of the entertainment industry: invisibility. The actor who was once in massive demand finds that roles are scarcer, less interesting, and often relegated to the status of supporting character or elder statesman. Hollywood has never been kind to aging actors, particularly men. The fantasy industry that sells youth and vitality has no place for bodies that show the genuine effects of time. At 77, Jean looks his age, which means he increasingly doesn't fit the visual standards of film and television. The roles available to him have shifted dramatically. Where he once played the lead, he now appears in smaller parts. Where he once commanded the screen through physical presence, he's now asked to convey depth and wisdom in limited screen time. While some of these roles are satisfying, the overall reduction in opportunities is a painful reminder of his fading relevance. Streaming services and the changing landscape of entertainment have made this transition even more difficult. The types of roles he might have played in earlier decades are no longer being written for aging European actors. The industry moves faster now. Younger actors replace older ones more quickly, and the nostalgia that might have kept him in work has limits. Financial security, earned through decades of successful work, means he's not desperate for any job. But this also means he can be selective, which sometimes means turning down work that feels beneath him or that would require pushing his aging body beyond what's safe. The balance between staying relevant and protecting his health is precarious. The loss of relevance has affected his mental health. For someone whose identity has been so tied to his career and his status as an action star, becoming invisible in the industry is deeply disorienting. He's had to confront the reality that he's aging out of the narrative of his own life story. Awards and recognition from the industry, which provided validation during his active career, have become less frequent, while retrospectives and tributes occasionally remind the world of his contributions. They also reinforce that he's being viewed as a figure of the past rather than a continuing presence. At 77, Jean Reno deals with the accumulation of decades of physical demands and aging. His movements are no longer fluid. Arthritis and years of injury have left him stiff and often in pain. What once felt natural in his body now requires conscious effort and often leaves him exhausted. He manages multiple chronic conditions that require ongoing medical attention. His energy levels are a fraction of what they once were. The stamina that allowed him to work long days on film sets is gone. Simple activities, like climbing stairs or standing for extended periods, can be challenging. The medication he takes for various conditions has its own effects. Some days he feels foggy or fatigued from pharmaceutical side effects. He has to plan his activities carefully, aware that overextending himself physically will cost him energy for days afterward. The invisibility of these struggles makes them particularly frustrating because he looks okay to most people, but internally he's managing significant limitation. Sleep has become difficult. He either sleeps too much or can't sleep at all, creating an exhausting pattern that affects his mood and cognitive function. The insomnia and fatigue creates a feedback loop where poor sleep leads to depression, which worsens sleep quality. There's also the psychological aspect of aging in an industry obsessed with appearance, while Jean's distinctive look has aged in a way that gives him presence. He's acutely aware that he no longer meets the visual standards of mainstream entertainment. The occasional unkind comment or dismissal based on his age and appearance cuts deeper than it might for someone whose identity isn't so tied to physical presence. Recent years have also brought renewed concerns about his health, medical scares, medications requiring adjustment, and the general fragility that comes with advancing age have forced him to confront his mortality in concrete terms. He's not delusional about how many years he likely has left, and that reality creates its own psychological burden. Despite or perhaps because of these struggles, Jean Reno has developed a philosophical perspective on his life and career. In recent interviews, he speaks with gratitude about the opportunities he's had, the success he achieved, and the journey that brought him from a frightened immigrant child to an international icon. He's spoken about how his early experiences of displacement and instability actually prepared him for the realities of an unpredictable career in entertainment. The adversity taught him resilience, and that same resilience has helped him face the challenges of aging with more grace than many managed. Jean has expressed appreciation for the work he's been able to do, the artists he's collaborated with, and the audiences who supported him across decades. There's less bitterness now about roles he didn't get or limitations he faces, and more acceptance of where he is in his life's arc. He's also become more reflective about what success actually means. The validation he sought through career achievement no longer drives him the way it once did. He's found meaning in other areas, relationships that matter, creative satisfaction rather than commercial success, and the legacy of work he's proud of. His experience navigating aging in an industry that rejects aging has made him more empathetic to others. Facing similar transitions, he understands that the pain of becoming invisible is real, that the loss of relevance cuts deeply, even when you know intellectually it's inevitable. At 77, Jean Reno continues working when interesting projects come along, remains engaged with his craft, and spends time with people and pursuits that bring him joy. He's learned to measure success by different metrics now, and while that transition wasn't easy, it's given him a different kind of peace.